Hi, my name is Lisa Bowman. I am the Union PSM representative for Phillips 66 in Southern California. Process safety management is extremely important because it saves lives, period.
We always hear our sirens on the first Wednesday, I think, of the month at 11 a.m.
Yeah, when you hear it outside of that normal test time, your stomach just kind of drops. It's like, man, what's going on? Where is it?
Yeah, it's that feeling of helplessness, and you know, your first thought is,
I hope no one's hurt.
yes, yeah.
Breaking news tonight as a large fire breaks out at a Northern California refinery. Tonight, people are being told to stay inside.
Message on station, please. This is a message from Contra Costa Health Services. There is an emergency at the Chevron refinery.
In August of 2012, the Chevron Richmond refinery had a catastrophic failure in the crude unit, and a pipe caused a vapor cloud. Fortunately, it didn't ignite for about 2.5 minutes, giving the 19 people that were in the vapor cloud the opportunity to escape. Looking at it, there was no way to know that everybody was safe, and that was, we got very lucky. There was only 4, they'll say minor. I still doesn't matter if it's minor or not. If you get burned in an incident like that, it fries your mind, I think, so.
But the bottom line being that this industry is basically self-regulated.
So a report wasn't acted upon, and that report said that pipe was thinning quicker than they expected and should be changed out.
And we find out that it had been 10 years of requests to replace that pipe.
We learned from the Chemical Safety Board's investigations that Chevron's own engineers had warned the managers in 6 separate reports over the course of about 10 years.
Not following the recommendations of that report led to a release, led to an explosion, and it led to 15,000 people going to the hospital. Those 15,000 people that ended up seeking medical attention was by and large because of the massive smoke plume that ended up covering the surrounding area.
Like vomiting and headache is what we're feeling right now.
Tests released today by Contra Costa Health Services showed low levels of dozens of harmful chemicals in the Richmond air, but experts have not yet tested for one critical concern: smoke particulates like cancer-causing benzene. They are what turned the smoke from this fire black.
Those meetings were happening. There was decisions made not to fix the pipe, and nobody was accountable for those decisions. They just made the decision not to.
After each of those reports, Chevron's managers, for whatever reason, decided to ignore the recommendations of their engineers.
Well, not only are they making money when that happens, their management people get bonuses. Problem with that, our people are in danger because if something goes wrong, it's our people that get hurt at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning, while their decision makers are at home in their cozy little beds.
I had gone to work in a refinery just after the Phillips explosion, which was horrendous. And then over the years, we had our coker explosion. We have seen the BP Texas City, the Chevron, the Tesoro in Anacortes. Okay, there was a whole litany of things that we saw with Texas City that just kind of opened our eyes.
We've learned in Texas City we've learned a lot from Texas City.
At 1:20 p.m. on March 23, 2005, a massive explosion and fire erupted at the BP refinery in Texas City, Texas. The explosion killed 15 workers and injured 180 others, many of them seriously.
There was a check-the-box mentality, which indicated that personnel would go through the motions with various policies and procedures, but the work would not be conducted. We also found there was a history of fatalities at the plant.
Prior to the March 2005 accident, 23 people died in accidents over a 30-year period at the Texas City refinery.
I think it's important that they hear the stories, right, and understand why we make such a big fuss about process safety. We keep striving to do something better, and without sharing that story, there's no history there, right? They looked at the temperature sensors on the drums, and it showed that the product was relatively cool. They thought they could open it and hope that a gooey liquid would flow out of the bottom. And when they did, hydrocarbon that had condensed in there flowed out, probably with some condensation, some moisture, and we had a vapor explosion. And there were 6 people in the area at the time, and they were engulfed and died instantly in the fire. We took volunteers from the rescue team to do the body recovery. The coroner, there were 2 people on the structure. The coroner could not get them off. We had to get them off, and one was in a ladder cage, and we had to cut the straps out of the cage to get them out. The other one was on the deck, and I say it was a coker, so it's a tarry substance, and he was stuck in the tar on the deck, and local George Welch and I had to chip him out to get him into a basket to get him off the deck. I mean, something like that sticks with you, right? I mean, you don't forget about that. And they were our friends and our co-workers, so.
As a child, I watched my father get hurt at one of the local oil companies, never to work again. One of my older cousins, who's like a brother, was hurt in a different state at a oil refinery. I can see when my dad can't pick up something because he's had 2 back surgeries. I can see when my cousin can't wear short sleeves in the summertime because he was burned over 60% of his body.
So that episode at the Richmond refinery led to the fight that began in 2012 that got the new regulations. That's what got us where we are today, to give us a greater voice, to give us a greater say in how things go.
It took about 5 years from start to finish in the state of California. Started off with the incident in Chevron Richmond that built community support, environmental groups were supportive, legislators were supportive, to really push on the governor's task force that was formed after the fire.
What we ended up winning was, for the first time anywhere in the US in terms of industrial safety regulation, was the right of workers to select their representatives, to participate throughout all phases of all elements of process safety decision making at the refineries. And so no longer will we have managers making decisions behind closed doors where they could have skewed priorities and devalue safety and underinvest in safety because nobody's watching.
You all remember the big black cloud of smoke floating across the bay to downtown San Francisco.
And that's what we really came together and pushed. It took everybody. It took other unions, it took the international stepping up, it took community groups, the environmental justice groups, the legislators that were willing to go and speak on the behalf of us.
Without bringing all those people together, we couldn't have got it done.
So the very beginning, it was the United Steelworkers International Union, United Steelworkers Local 5, Communities for a Better Environment, the NRDC, Blue Green Alliance, APEN, what was considered the Refinery Action Collaborative.
It was a groundbreaking moment because a number of folks came together and acted as one to get the new regulations passed. These process safety regulations, we're not only responsible for our safety in the yard, but we're also responsible for the safety of the community.
I actually live in the community in which I work. I have been there for years. My neighbors have been there for years. There are 4 generations of neighbors. It's important that we keep our refinery safe because it affects not just my home, but my neighbor's home.
Management has the ultimate responsibility for the safe operation of the facility, but we have a responsibility, and now we have a say in that as well.
I think if the process safety regulation had been as strong as this new regulation, when both of my family members were injured, they would not have been injured. Companies would have been forced to do the right thing. Companies would have been forced to follow rules. And back then, they didn't have to. Now we're going to make sure that they have to.
The regulation requires employee participation, and that is the lifeblood of the regulation.
When one of your union safety reps, if your PSM rep comes to you and asks for your help, volunteer, jump on board, and together we can make this a safer place to work.